thank you for being here. This is workshop September 28th. I'd like to thank all of you for attending this morning's meeting. And you know we have significant concerns related to the proposed expansion of the Turnpike and impacts to our residents of Coconut Creek, which impacts a couple areas. We've been informed by the Turnpike staff that we have a limited amount of time today, and therefore I'm going to ask we focus this meeting on information gathering. The time for expressing opinions will follow and are most appropriately presented at the formal public hearing related to this project, which is scheduled for October 17th at 5:30 p.m. at the city's community center on Alliance Road. I think it's 1100. I would like to extend a special thank you to our elected representatives. State Rep Kristen Jacobs, right over here. Broward County Commissioner Mark Bogan is represented by Matt Gottva. Teresa Breyer, a Deputy District Director with Congressman Deutsch. Teresa Hagprofro, I've already apologized to her. She's the legislative assistant for State Senator Radar. We also have Bruce Bandler, the administrator of Winmore, and with him is Chip Chase, and he is chairman of the P&Z board. We have Lauren Jackson from Eric's Consultants. We have Dr. Avis Proctor, who it's always a pleasure to see, from the North Campus, president of Broward College, with John Didnut. And Lori Salurillo. Is Lori here yet?
Not yet.
She'll be here.
And from Junior Achievement. All those who have significant, first day with my new mouth, all who have significant interest in this project, the city has retained the services of Mike Sexton with Sexton Engineering. So Mike, can you raise your hand? And he's assisting us in reviewing the impacts of this project. The Turnpike is represented by Michael Shannon, PE Director of Transportation Development, who will introduce his team and make a brief presentation. So, Michael?
Yes, good morning. Thanks for having us down here. We look forward to sharing some information on the project. And like you said, we're really trying to get data out, make sure everybody understands the facts behind the project and understands what we're doing. I think there's some misunderstandings of some of the things we're doing, so hopefully we can clarify some of those. Hopefully we can come to agreement that this project is needed. It's been around since I actually moved to Florida for this project. Back in 2005. So I was the original EOR when I was with the consulting firm back in 2005 and worked on this job. So I know the need was there back then, and it's still there today. And it's an important project for the area, I think. And I think you'll see today that we're taking all the communities into account in what we're proposing, and that we're going to touch on some sound wall and noise wall issues. I know that was a concern. Some bike ped facilities and things that we're doing to help improve those, but also to help get basically what would be our last widening in this area. So I think that's an important thing to take into account here, is that this really is the ultimate widening of this section of the roadway, and when we're done, we're done. And that's what we're trying to set up, is a roadway that'll last for a number of years and not leave you in the situation you are today, where you really don't have the capacity that you need out here on this corridor. So I'll introduce our team. Andy is the project manager for the Turnpike. He's with our DEC. James Kelly is the design consultant, project manager, who's actually doing the design and will be the engineer of record on the contract. And then we have a number of other Turnpike staff with a number of different disciplines that can cover all the technical things that I can't answer anymore. So when we get into questions or need to get into the specific details on an element. So I'm going to turn it over to Andy and let him give you an overview on the project, and then we'll go from there.
Actually, before you do that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Sheila Rose, Assistant City Manager and Director of Sustainable Development, to introduce the city's consultant and to lead the discussion related to the technical questions that the city staff has at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I just want to take a chance to introduce Mike Sexton. Mike has over 35 years of engineering and professional land surveying experience in the area. He's worked both for and against the DOT throughout the state, and he has some very specific experience in reviewing project development and environmental studies. So we think he's a real asset to the team. I really wanted to just bring Mike here. He's just joined the team. This, as we see, is a little bit of a moving target. The plans that we're seeing this morning are not the plans we even saw, a couple of days ago. So we're going to be asking for some time and some additional documentation and trying to ferret out some information so that we really understand the impacts of the project. So Mike, who is President and CEO of Sexton Engineering, has a great background, and I think he'll be vital in this project. So thank you for joining us. We provided some technical questions to the Turnpike District. I know they want to make a presentation just giving us the overview and how this project relates to the rest of the Turnpike project. So I'll let Mike do that, and then we'd like to get back into some of the more technical questions.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think many of us know, but for those who don't, I'll give a brief overview of the project. We're taking the current 6 lanes and going to 10 lanes. The new capacity will be express lanes. The widening is from Atlantic Boulevard, as you see here, up to Wiles Road. The original PD&E study did go up through the Sawgrass, but we have actually stopped at Wiles Road for this project. And there is a PD&E study currently underway for the Sawgrass interchange. Essentially, we are, like I said, building express lanes, widening to 10 lanes. We are going to be installing noise walls where they had met. We have a draft noise study which is being worked on. I don't really know what else there is as far as the overview. We are actually, as we all know, at Coconut Creek Parkway and Sample Road. We are reconfiguring those interchanges. They are the old trumpet-style interchanges. So we are, of course, reworking those entire interchanges. And again, we're here to reach out and to discuss the project as part of the program.
Well, if I could ask that you focus a little bit on the process, at least to open the dialogue, because one of our principal concerns is that this is voiced as a reevaluation, and it appears to be a very significant change, particularly in the area of South Creek and Winmore. So we really want to understand why this is not a new PD&E study, and if you could go into that, I'd appreciate it.
Right, and we have some folks here who Martin and Paul, who can ask, but we are doing a full PD&E reevaluation, redoing the cultural resource analysis, doing the noise study, doing community outreach, public hearings. We're calling it a design public hearing, but it's essentially like a PD&E public hearing where we will take comments, and we will go back and look at those comments and come up with conclusions. We only, at the point where now we have a line and grade that we've got, that we've reviewed, so we don't even have a phase submittal plans yet. We're working towards a phase submittal, phase 2 submittal in the next few months. But we are interested in the public and incorporating any comments.
And for the purpose of the public, can you explain what line and grade is? Because I think that's where we're...
Okay.
The issues are, people are not understanding, at least our team is not understanding, when you say line and grade, why some of the details have not been resolved. Would you go into that?
Right, and line and grade is essentially just the profile of the road. It doesn't show the full detail of lane widths and all, but we are putting in the noise walls, trying to get the exact locations of noise walls as well. So when I say line and grade, the alignment is set. We just haven't produced the plans to get a phase submittal to show all the edge of pavements and all. But we are working now in the PD&E reevaluation phase with outreach to take public comments. And I think that's maybe where you're seeing some of the disconnecting noise walls. Some of the original noise walls might have been not as high, and with Mark's help and the EUR, we're going back to reevaluate the noise walls in this study. So that's part of this reevaluation that we're conducting right now.
And so let me just pick off on that point. The question of reevaluation. Our concern is that it is a reevaluation, and it appears to be a very superficial evaluation from the environmental perspective. The air quality report was not redone. Some of the traffic is based on regional models as opposed to very site-specific transportation. whereas in a PD&E study, it would be a more site-specific evaluation. Can you address that? And that's why we're really struggling with that.
Yeah, we brought Martin here. He's our noise coordinator, and in our environmental office, and he actually came just to speak to this.
Thank you. If you could give your name and address and who you work for.
You want my physical address?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. My name is Martin Horowitz. I'm with Florida's Turnpike Enterprise. I'm the environmental administrator and environmental permit coordinator, and I reside in the city of Cleveland, Florida. And so to answer some of your questions, so the reevaluation is being done because PD&E was not constructed yet. So also within the limits of our existing limited access right-of-way, we are proposing to maintain the majority of the project. So it's not like taking a strip of 100 feet along the entire corridor where we're displacing residents, we're having other impacts. So, but when we look at the reevaluation, we're looking at what has really changed from the original document. Air, we are in an attainment state, so there are no air impacts. There is carbon monoxide screening that we are doing. The previous study showed that we were under the requirements for carbon monoxide. Since we're improving the interchanges, we don't expect there to be a negative impact. When we started out with the reevaluation, we determined that we didn't think that there was any negative impact because we provided these improvements. Based off the comments, we are doing the screening, so we'll document for you. Noise. The noise study was done back in 2006 for the PD&E. They also did a design level noise study before the project was put on hold. We have to reevaluate the noise. We are resetting the date of public knowledge, which in standard breakdown terms, when you have a project, you look at noise during the PD&E phase. Once the PD&E SEER or federal environmental document is signed, that becomes what's called the date of public knowledge. The date of public knowledge means that if any new resident gets a building permit or any structures that come in after that date, they are not included in the evaluation for noise. So what we're doing is, because we're adding the 2 additional lanes, is we're saying we're resetting the date of public knowledge. It will become effective with the reevaluation once that's signed. So we're including everybody again into the noise study, reevaluating. We've determined that there's actually greater lengths of walls that would be proposed than what was done in 2006.
So, I'm trying not to have back and forth, but I'm just trying to dig into some of those questions, because the existing conditions in the noise study are based on an 8-lane section. Are you saying that from last week to this week, you've changed the date of public knowledge? Are you proposing? Because it's proposed, it's shown as the existing condition as the 8-lane, which was approved in the original PD&E study.
Right, and so when you do a design noise study report, you don't go back to a no-build condition. You're looking at what's the future traffic going to be in 2040. We want to model the worst-case scenario of traffic and provide noise abatement for that situation.
I think that's an important condition. I think that is something that's very important that the City Commission understand, that they're modeling the noise based on the fact that as if the 8-lane existed. Is that correct? Again, there's no comparison to the no-build when you actually run the noise model. And if you actually look at the noise levels from the PD&E noise study report compared to what we've provided in the draft noise study, there's not a 15 decibel increase. It's 10 or less, so it's still not considered a significant impact. Even if it was considered a significant impact, it's basically the same process as if you had a noise receptor that's impacted. We look at noise abatement. And so that's what we've done. We've looked at providing noise abatement to the greatest extent possible for the entire corridor.
Okay. Can you bring up about the western, how it's shifted? Because for the audience.
So the current lanes were taken into account. And just to clarify kind of what you said.
Can you speak up, please? So
to clarify what she had said, the 10 lane was taken into account and the alignment was taken into account when we redid the noise study. So it wasn't like we did the previous design, right?
Right. It was based on.
It was based on the current design that we have today, is what the updated noise analysis is evaluating. So we're not basing the current noise evaluation on the previous design or previous work. It's based on the current design and current work. So just so everybody's clear that it's today's information that we're evaluating, not the 2006 information. I think there was some confusion to that as to what was being evaluated. So, we are definitely evaluating the current design with the current alignment, both horizontal and vertical, and traffic not at 2030, but at 2040. So, it's a full evaluation done with updated information, not something based on previous information, which is,
Okay.
I want to make sure everybody understands.
Just for the benefit of the audience, I think there's a lot of concern related to all of the widening occurring on the west side. That's where our concerns are focused. It seems unfair. And if you could go into the rationale for that. Nobody, in our opinion, could ever have anticipated the widening. It's like as if it were a 12-lane facility. So I think that's really important to clarify.
To move the project forward, we have two major utilities lines running down the east side of the corridor, FGT lines. There's a 24-inch and an 18-inch major gas line that feeds South Florida that runs down this corridor. To move the project forward, what we did was evaluated, because there's an agreement that was done between the department and FGT on how to address the existing gas lines. So in following with that agreement, we evaluated it and determined that we could move the alignment over and not impact those gas lines. To impact those gas lines, the department would be required to relocate those gas lines to a suitable corridor, which means buying a 60-foot corridor somewhere adjacent to the existing corridor. We did not see that as a feasible option to try to find a 60-foot corridor that's in a reasonable location next to the Turnpike. I have hard pressed to think that anybody would want us to move that 60 feet of two major gas lines into one of the communities that abuts the Turnpike, along with the cost that's associated with that and the time delays that are associated with that, because you would then have to go through a PERC hearing that really has an undetermined length of time to it, and you could be delaying this project a significant number of years to see any improvements out here. So what we did was looked at it as what can we do within our right-of-way to be able to move this project forward. And that's where we came to the decision of moving the road to the west, fully evaluating the noise, fully evaluating the impacts, and mitigating for that during our design. So that's the reason that we did the shift, was really from a cost standpoint and the ability to move the project forward and have a minimal impact on the communities, which I think this does. So, that's where we were, and that was, what the decision was at that time, and where we're at.
Let me just, so one of the things that we're trying to deal with is what happened between 2006 and now. And back in 2006 and 2007, there were considerable discussions and additional mitigation that was provided for specifically the Windmore community. I think the staff's concern is that we're noticed for public hearings and going forward, and y'all, when I say y'all, I mean the Turnpike Authority, appear to have been unaware of those commitments.
I think we are aware of those commitments. We actually have addressed those commitments, and they can go into the details of what we understood the commitments. I believe there was 3. There was one on noise walls. There was one on glare screens and
landscape buffer.
A landscape, yes. We're aware of all 3 of those, and we're addressing all 3 of those.
And I think from the perspective of those that were involved in the negotiations, and I'll let them speak for themselves if they want to, that was based on another project. And I think what we're hoping is that we can readdress those and improve the conditions.
Well, I think that's part of the public hearing process, is for you guys to provide that input, and us to see what those discussions lead to.
Okay.
Yeah, Sheila, we went through all the documents, and Bruce helped get them, and we made sure to go through all those. What we found was the glare screen, which we're currently designing now, because we know the headlights are hitting the community.
Right.
And we're working on the noise walls as well, and then the landscape buffer. So if there's others that let us know. But we searched through all of that documentation and a lot of the emails back and forth.
Okay. Well, and I appreciate that staff put together a list of questions, and I just wanted to hit on a couple of them.
Yes.
That we know nobody's had time to digest them. And again, we're concerned that this is moving forward to public hearing and our ability to comment starts to come to a close. And we want to make sure that we've addressed these questions. In your response to the question related to the landscape drawings, the response was the landscape will be installed as a separate project. Now, I know that is state policy, but that seems to be very inconsistent with a settlement that was negotiated about landscaping.
Well, we're still doing the landscaping, so I think we're still meeting those requirements. I mean, there still will be a landscape commitment when those projects get developed. I mean, that coordination can happen with what that landscape project does. The reason for the state going that direction was putting landscape within a construction project ended up in bad landscaping. So, it really works better to have that landscaping and be done by a landscape contractor.
Is there a time commitment? And I raise this because there were commitments related to landscaping within the Turnpike right-of-way in years gone past, and they still have not been fulfilled. I mean, they're particularly in the Winmore area.
The what?
In the Winmore area, there's been ongoing discussions for about the past 3 years about replacement of material that came down in Wilmot. And that's why this is a sensitive issue with us.
I guess I'm not familiar with the request on that. So if there's some type of written request or something, then if you could get that to us, we could look at it.
We have.
Do we have that?
We sent Debbie out and to come look at it, and so we did some cleanup out there. It came through Vicki, through the MPO, and we have had maintenance out there evaluating it. I don't think they have a replanting plan completed yet, but that's one of the things that we're working on.
And just for the benefit of the audience.
I'd like to state your name for
I'm
the
sorry,
record.
Allison Stettner, I'm the planning manager.
Thank you.
And just for the benefit of the audience, the commitments related to Winmore were associated with Hurricane Wilma, not Irma. And that's been many, many years ago. So I think that's, we really, when you talk about it, it'll be done as a separate project, we'll be looking for commitments as to time frames. There were a couple of questions related to transit accessibility and the priority of this project and complying with the Complete Streets manual. And the reference was that you comply with the state standards. Has there been any review of the bridle easement along Winmore? Are there any commitments to do anything beyond, the 7-foot bike lane? When the interchanges start happening, particularly in the area of Broward College, it looks like considerable crossing distances and some awkward conditions. Is there any plan to evaluate the improvement of those intersections to improve them, not just...
You want to go through the interchange improvements?
Yeah, I mean, when we look
If you could come to the podium, please, and speak, and
Andrew Velasquez.
Give your name.
With AECOM, working for the Forest Turnpike Authority.
if you could start over again and give your
Sure.
name.
Andrew Velasquez. I'm with AECOM. I work for the Forest Turnpike Planning Office. I live in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, but also work in the Concord building down here several times a week. So the interchange improvements that we're considering here, we all recognize the need for maintaining appropriate bicycle pedestrian facilities. We met early on with cities, and the desire to have 7-foot bike lanes was expressed over the bridges, and we are accommodating that. All of the intersections will be treated with the appropriate amenities, including ADA compliance. We're also looking at opportunities where if there needs to be improvements to the facilities, sidewalk connectivity, that will be in play, and that's something that will occur as we get through the design process. But I think this gives us an opportunity to get into more details with the city. If there's anything specific that you want during the design for bicycle pedestrian accommodations, now is the time to have that feedback from you as well.
Okay. And I'll just reiterate, the concern we have is that the details are not resolved, and we're heading to the public hearing, and the time to make these comments is coming to a close, and we're very concerned about that. So maybe it's time that we walk just through the individual drawings, because I see that the plans have changed even from the drawings that we saw last week. And if we could start in the South Creek area and maybe walk forward through the changes that have occurred between the drawings that are here and the drawings that we prepared, showing what were in the noise report that is now part of the public record and is to be considered as part of the public hearing record. So if we could start at the south end, I think Sunshine Drive and the South Creek area is really the beginning of the impacts to the city.
And we have our EOR here as well, Dan Kelly, who may help. Dan is very familiar with these as well. Can we have Dan
So
come
if
up
you
and
could
help
put your name on the record.
Dan Kelly, HNTV, EOR for Turnpike.
You want the EOR?
Engineer of record.
Okay. Thank you.
So back on the plots here. I'm not sure, Sheila, what you meant by that. I know that something had happened.
Well, the noise wall here.
Noise
proposed-
walls. Yeah, what happened was the proposed noise wall previously were going to be mounted on top of shoulder barrier. And what we've determined is that we can put in standalone noise walls that I guess you're all more familiar with, the posted panel. 5 feet off the right-of-way line, they'll be 22 feet high. Now, there is a case, if you go to the second plot, where as you come up to the lake, you can put the noise wall along the right-of-way line through here, and up along the lake here. But once you get to this area, because the road is higher than the ground, it's actually, you're better off with going back to the noise wall. It's not on top of shoulder barrier. It's actually the top of the wall will be higher than put it on the right-of-way line as a standalone wall. So we're proposing in this tight area here to continue the noise barrier on top of the shoulder barrier.
Is it possible for you to use the map above so all of us can see what you're talking about?
Yeah. And that's the Windmore top piece right there. If we could speak one at a time, it'd be better. Yeah, she has to take record. So.
Do you have a laser pointer? Or?
Yeah, he's got
I'll let it work.
And they're basically talking about the noise wall on the west side of the Turnpike abutting the Windmore community,
We got last week.
where they'd use a shoulder wall. And could you define what a shoulder wall is?
I'll try. Engineers can't speak without sketching, so I'm at a loss if I don't have paper and a pen.
He skipped it.
If I could ask that we start at the bottom with the South Creek, Sunshine Drive, the original, the plan, the engineering drawings that we received last week show an 8-foot shoulder-mounted wall. The noise study shows a 12-foot wall, and now the drawings we're showing today are showing a 22-foot wall. So if you could discuss the benefits and the changes, starting from south and moving north.
Martin Horowitz again. When there was a lot of outcry for requests for the noise report, we sent the draft. We had not gone through our formal review yet, so there was errors on the exhibits. And those errors were the difference between the noise report, I think it said 14, and then it had in area 8. So that's why there's a discrepancy on there. We've gone back, we're reevaluating the ground-mounted barriers, as Dan was saying, because there is room. And so the current noise study report is still being revised. So,
and just with all due respect, the concern we have is that those documents are out and available for public inspection, and our time to comment is coming to a close.
you can comment throughout the life of the project. I mean, the formal comment period is for the hearing for the public, but there's always the opportunity for people to email us and express their concerns. So I mean, the formal hearing is what we're taking comments on to try to finalize the reevaluation. We're early in the design, so there's still a lot of things.
And we're just trying to effectuate change. So we want to know when the time limit is to effectuate change.
I'm speaking for the Turnpike, so I'll get the Turnpike to verify this, but my understanding is that as we develop plans to go through the phases, which will go into next year, each time we submit a phase set to the Turnpike, a courtesy set will be sent to the city for comment. So it's not like 2 weeks after October 17th, you have no more say in the project. You have say every time we do another version of the plans until we get the design finalized. That's my understanding.
Yes.
But will there be another public hearing, though?
No.
See, so if you promising the public in South Creek or in Windmore 22-foot
Right.
noise walls, separate noise walls, not shoulder noise walls, the smaller ones, and you change that later on in the game.
Then we would notify those residents adjacent to that.
And would you have another open public hearing where they can actually?
No, because we're trying to maximize the benefit to everybody. So, I mean, unless everyone's opposed to it, which we already surveyed a large percentage of people are wanting the noise wall, and, you know, and so it's associated with the project. So if the project's not constructed, the noise wall is not constructed.
No, but is it feasible? You know for sure that a 22-foot wall is feasible.
Yes, ma'am. I got the results yesterday, and so there is a 22-foot wall up.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been working on since original outreach with the Winmore folks, and Martin and Dan have been working hard to maximize the noise walls to get the best we can.
So that's for South Creek and
Oh,
Winmore.
for the whole project, yeah. We will do.
Okay, I'm going to hold you to 22 feet.
Well, Winmore North will be 14, because like Dan was about to say about
A
that.
shoulder mounted noise wall may be higher than one down on the ground mount.
Look at this,
You have to look at the
this is what
absolute
they're
height of the
saying.
wall.
Right.
We have to keep the record straight, so if you could announce your name, Mike,
So,
who's speaking.
Mike Shannon, Director of Transportation Development. And what they're trying to show, and it's easiest to see it if you look at this typical, and we don't have a board of the typical.
Okay, we
so-
can't see what you're pointing to,
Okay,
Mike.
so can everybody walk up here and we can look at it? 'Cause
I don't think
have-
the entire room can crowd around this table. Can
Well,
you
we can,
use
I don't,
the exhibits
do we
and
have a
that?
way to show it on the board?
Did we pass that out, Sheila, in here?
No, we just got these last night.
Oh, we just got it last night.
Send them all out.
Right.
Based on the
Is that what's on the board?
The city has them.
No, we just got them.
I'm not running the electronics, so if somebody could get it on the board, it'd be more than
Yeah,
happy
so
to
much
show
of the city
somebody.
IT can get what we sent you last night, we can break it up.
Otherwise,
I
we'll have
don't
to
believe
look
you'll
at
be
the
able to
paper.
show that drawing with this resolution.
So-
It's effective.
I think we got more than one copy. We can lay out more than one copy and have people come up and look at it. The gist of what they're trying to say is if you put a 22-foot wall on the ground, the roadway is elevated higher, and the 14-foot wall at the elevation of the roadway on top of the barrier is actually the top of the 14-foot wall is higher than the top of the 22-foot wall that would be at the ground level.
So how much higher?
Dan, do you
To ground
have the-
level, wherever that
Do you
may
have
be.
the difference in height? He doesn't have it on the drawing. But it would be one of the two, and I would think you would want the wall that would be taller would be the preference. And that's what we're looking at. So our goal is to provide the most benefit possible. And we would have no reason to go back on that unless it was physically impossible to do. So that's what we're trying to say is just because you see 22 feet does not mean it's better than the 14 foot. You have to look at the whole situation, not just the numbers of the 22-foot wall versus the 14-foot wall.
Have they been evaluated for the cost feasible criteria?
Yes, yeah. Our would say yes, they're all cost reasonable, so we can proceed. And also I should point out that when you have the noise wall closest to the noise source, that helps reduce, it provides greater noise abatement sometimes than you have when you're farther away.
And we're controlled, I think Martin can give you the exact numbers. We're controlled on the noise analysis by federal regulations, correct?
All the federal and state regulations.
So whatever it says is what we are held to. It's not our decision. We don't get to make it up as we go, and we don't get to change those rules. So if it says there's a noise wall, we put in the noise wall. If it says no noise wall, we don't put in a noise wall. And we don't have the ability, we don't change that. So I just want everybody to be clear that we're not just randomly coming up with some method to do the noise wall analysis. This is a federally regulated process that we do, and it generates what walls will be put in and what walls will not be put in. So that everybody's kind of understands where it is. It's not just the Turnpike going, we don't like those people and we're not giving them a wall. We like these people, we're giving them a wall. We follow the process and put them in based on what that process is.
Do the walls go in prior to the major construction of these additional 4 lanes?
When they can. And Ken can address this. Ken, I'll try to answer it and you tell me when I mess it up. The ground-mounted walls typically can go in earlier because they can be done separately. The mounted walls on the barrier have to wait, of course, until the barrier gets put in. And that is determined by the sequence of the construction. I mean, there's certain things that have to go in before other things. So they are put in within the sequence of, you can't put a wall in and then put the road in. It all has to go in at the right time. The benefit of the walls that are separated is they are separated and they're not necessarily tied to anything else. So typically, and I say typically because there are exceptions, they can and we typically try to put those in because it does then provide a benefit during construction, right? And it's in prior to construction. Is that pretty accurate? That's right.
Does it seem feasible that will be able to happen in this?
I don't see a reason why we Do you see any reason why we would not be able to install the walls early?
Not at all. Should be on the first day.
I mean, typically it's something where, there's a canal and the wall's got to go on a canal. The canal would have to be filled in before the wall could go in, right? But
I believe
mean,
there's a canal there.
Yeah, if it's physically.
There is a canal.
So there may be some grade work that needs to happen in order to do it. So it may not be, absolutely the first thing. There may be some clearing and grubbing that has to happen. Some practical things that have to happen before it gets put in.
And while you're on that
Well,
topic.
not necessarily. Those are the things that happen at the beginning of the project. Clearing and grubbing is one of the first things that you do.
Well, while you're on that topic, I think that's a concern, particularly along in the Sunshine Drive area, Lake Drive, and in Windmore, there is a great deal of vegetation. Is the expectation that will all be removed?
We typically don't clear right away line. We typically only clear what we need to do the construction.
But doesn't this construction go all the way to the right-of-way line?
If it does, then yes, those will be removed. I mean, they'll have to be in order to be.
We need to understand, if we're talking about a ground-mounted noise barrier, it's at the right-of-way line or within a few feet.
Right. If the wall is going to be within 5 feet of the right-of-way line, I would anticipate that landscaping or that vegetation will be removed in order to be able to construct it.
Okay.
Is there a minimum number of feet between the noise barrier wall and a structure, like a single-family home patio? That is a requirement?
We typically do 5 feet, and that's to allow somebody to get in there and do maintenance.
That's our right-of-way, to the right-of-way.
To the right, I'm sorry, not to the right-of-way line. So it's 5, I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you're saying. To our right-of-way line, we typically do 5 feet, and that's to allow somebody to get back there and try to do maintenance on it. I don't know if we're expediting any of the other things with the fence on this project.
No, doesn't matter.
Because you could be right up to somebody's pool.
Oh, yeah, well, we have pools that are on our property, actually, sometimes, so, yeah, I mean, if that does happen, where somebody actually builds on our property, so, but, yeah, so we will, well, not if it's our property and we block and pave it, so, yeah, but that does happen. We typically, first thing we do is go in and identify those lines and what we own, and then we go in 5 feet from that. That's done through surveys, so, but, yeah, I mean, we got a situation down in the Hoof right now where somebody's built 2 garages and part of their patio, and we're leaving it because we don't have to take it out, and we can put the wall in. So if we can work with the owner, we'll work with the property owner.
So I just have one more question, and then I'd like to see if Mike has any questions, and then if it's okay with you,
Yeah, we'll get
Commissioner,
the
I'm sure we'll
commission.
have some questions. And that is, we talk about these noise walls and the moving target, which concerns me. But
Okay. And can we
how
clarify
is-
the moving targets, because I'm not clear on what you mean by that, because I think we've been clear on where we are right now. So I just want to make sure everybody understands where we're at.
In that we have not seen plan and profile of these walls, I think there are issues related to, particularly in the area of Sunshine Drive, for instance, the filling of that canal, whether you're going to do pile driving proximate to those homes is a real concern. I think pile driving in the area of Windmore is a real concern.
Yep.
I don't know that we have enough technical information to say a ground-mounted noise barrier without looking at it in the report is preferable to an individually mounted wall. I think there are several grade issues, particularly in the south area, where the road is elevated and the homes are sometimes 3 and 4 stories, that I think we need the time to look at the report.
So again, just so you know, we cannot build a wall higher than 22 feet. That's the maximum wall height. So if you have a 30 or 40 foot building, the wall's going to be 22 feet. That's what it is. We will maximize, based on the noise study, the best wall possible, and that's the one that we'll install, that provides the best noise abatement. If it's ground mounted or shoulder wall. We'll have that information. I mean, we have that information really today. If there's a preference that you would rather give up noise abatement to have the wall either on the ground or on the wall, I think we can have that discussion. I don't know why you would want to do that, but our goal would be to provide you the best benefit possible with the sound wall, and that's what we'll do.
So are there other mitigation measures that can be deployed? I think that's what we're, particularly with these taller units.
The only thing the department has is the noise wall abatements. We don't have any other real methods of noise. I mean, our pavement in Florida is one of the quietest pavements in the country. We use the friction cores, the FC5. that we use is one of the quietest pavements in the country. So that's what we use. They've done a lot of studies on that, and ours is one of the quietest that's around. Those are things that you could do, but we do that already. So, outside of that, is there anything else that anybody think about I'm not thinking of?
If I can clarify one thing, these noise walls, the environmental barrier, they're not pile drive driven. So it's a
drill
basically
shaft.
a big drill that drills down the earth. It's not allowed, generating.
It's not pile drive.
No.
Now, there will, and I'm not going to tell you there's not going to be pile driving on the project. There will be when we do the bridges and things, there has to be. But our construction guys typically try to use methods that minimize that and understand the impacts to the public of having to do that. But it is construction, and it is going to be some noise. I think one of the benefits is we're coming in and doing the final, what I would call the final widening. So you're going to get it one time, and we're going to be done, and most likely not be out here.
I hate to say it, though, you're going right to the edge of everybody's property, so there's no room for anymore if you can't go to the
and
east.
that's what I'm saying. So the good thing is, what I mean by that is we're not coming out and doing an 8-lane and then turning around and coming out in a 10-lane 10 years later, right? So we're getting it done all at one time. It's going to be a few rough years, but construction, that's how it is. I mean, we have to get it built. We try to do the best we can with maintaining the number of lanes and our MOT sequences to make sure that traffic flows, and we do all of that. And we do a very detailed analysis in doing that. But that's what I mean by that when I say we're coming out and trying to get it all done at one time so that we're not out here putting barrels out, now and in 10 years later going to do it again.
All right, Mike Sexton has a question, and then we can have the...
Just a general question for the public hearing process and so forth. But the information that you're going to be presenting, the reports and so forth, what is your drop-dead date for publishing those reports and making them available so that we all know we're looking at the same thing to prepare for that hearing?
Can you run through our schedule?
I did not bring it with me, but those.
Everyone goes on to the hearing.
You're going to
Yeah. Can you go through the schedule for them real quick?
The public hearing is on October 17th. It's called a 2-week comment period. And then we'll be submitting in October first major plan set, which the city will also receive and they can on this. Consider a 6% plan set, but obviously we don't take into consideration all the noise studies and everything else.
You said 60%?
60%.
Okay.
Right. The 90% plans should be in December. Final plans around May of next year. Fast.
Okay.
Construction in
Construction
2000.
led currently is
And we're following the process that we're required to.
But none.
And we're having these, and that's the reason we're having these public workshops.
All right, so
Well, I want to make sure we're clear that, we're doing extra steps in having these public workshops so we get this input and trying to communicate with the locals. So, it's not like we're not doing that. We are doing that, and we're giving people a lot of notice and a lot of extra meetings because we're being asked to. So, I think we are reaching out to do that.
I didn't hear the
What?
answer to the question.
Now, the first question I'll go back to, but just, is this a public workshop or a public hearing?
Today?
The
No,
one
this is
in
a
October
hearing.
17th. It's a public hearing.
Yes.
Okay. But for that public hearing, what I was asking timing-wise is the things that you will be presenting at it. When will those plans and those reports be available? Are they today with what we got yesterday, or are you still making changes?
Yeah, I can't say that. Those are actually on file at our Functional Operations Center and at the North Regional Library. Due to the schedule, I don't have it with me, but those have already been submitted and are on record for view.
But like they're wrong as far as the noise
When
reports.
they're asking
because they were
when
drafted.
are the reports that we're doing today for the noise law, when will the noise law analysis be complete?
We expect to have another draft report submitted here in the next couple of weeks. But what we're showing at the public hearing is the final location, what we believe is the final proposed locations, unless we get comments about that.
So we won't have it in advance of the hearing.
What?
Give me any comfort.
Is there a concern that we're not doing a noise model correctly?
No. What my concern is you're having a public hearing prior to releasing the information for us to come to the public hearing prepared to comment on.
But the hearing will present all the general information about the project if you want specific plans.
You get a few-week time period.
Generally, though, before a public hearing, you have the information so you can go to the public hearing and not look like an idiot.
Well, there's information that's available 21 days prior to the hearing as required.
This is less than 21 days.
Right, that's fine.
Any more?
I guess just, do you have an updated draft noise report that we could look at that has addressed the errors you had in
I'm
it?
expecting the next couple of days here, and I'll be glad to forward it to you guys.
So we could have it first thing next week or something?
As soon as we get it in, we'll ship it.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, next we're going to do the city commission that's here, then Josh, then state rep, Kristen Jacobs. So, Nikki?
Oh, I'm it.
No, you're not it. You're one of them.
We'll make you first and last, that way you get.
All right. The first thing I'd like to mention is that on October 5th at 9:30 in the morning, everybody here is invited to Winmore to come to a public hearing on whatever the legal word for it is, meeting, so that the residents can actually listen to you and hear what you're saying. And you know where Winmore is, right?
Yes.
Everybody? Okay. The noise walls are really important to us. Of course, from the drawings that I saw, it looks like you're coming 10 feet within Winmore. We have some trees there that have been there for years that we really don't want to lose, but it looks like from the way you're presenting it that whole row is going to have to come down. We would like to talk about that. But Mary had already asked about the walls going in prior to construction. And you said, well, maybe, pending, and so on.
They typically do.
So, how long do you anticipate that you're going to be out there with lights, with dust, with noise, with redirecting traffic? How many years are you planning to be out there creating a problem for us?
Over in the neighborhood of 4 years.
Okay, so what are you willing to do for the Winmore residents who live right on that line? Are you willing to give them all some noise-proof windows so that they can sleep at night? Because in addition to the noise you're going to have working at night, so, what are you willing to do to help these people for 4 years? Besides the fact that they probably are going to lose the ability to sell their places. It's a terrible, not even an inconvenience, it's just unimaginable for all those homes for the factor.
Right, I understand that. We don't typically do anything with the homes. Our mitigation measure is the noise walls. If they are ground mounted, we can take a look at whether or not we can prioritize those in the contract and have contract language to require those in their areas to be built if they can, so that the contractor doesn't have the ability to change that. So that's something that we can look at doing is seeing if we can get that language in the contract to require those noise walls constructed of it.
Okay, and if that can't be done, there's no mitigation or anything that you can do for our residents to help them for 4 years.
Right. No, that's the thing that's constructed.
These are senior citizens.
Do you have anything that you can talk to on the construction side that we do?
I'm Ken Hudson.
If you can come to the podium, please. Thank you. And give your name.
I'm Ken Hudson. I'm a consultant at Turnpike. If I had to guess right now, with what we have in front of us, about 80% of the work will be done during the day. So your noise at night is really going to be minimal. And I think I see some ways we can get the walls in there.
And Kim's going to...
Minimal for 4 years anyway.
I don't know if you said that you're going to be
If we can speed up, because we only have a little bit of time, so everybody gets a chance, please.
I'll leave it at that. So you have a chance to talk. Sorry about that, Mayor.
No, that's okay.
Yes.
Okay. My concern, my turn?
Yeah.
My concern is obviously with the interchange in relation to the bikes and pedestrians. Broward College is right at the very east end of our education corridor that we're so extremely proud of. And as you can imagine, great number of students coming in all modes of transportation, on and off in that area. So 4 years is going to be, not even knowing how close the Turnpike is by the widening is going to come to their properties. But I'm really concerned about the students and the faculty and the staff that it takes to make all those things happen. Not just Broward College, but their immediate impact, but all of the other schools and educations that are on that make it up. So we've really got to be cautious about that pedestrian and mobile traffic.
Yep, and we take all that into account when we do our TCP or traffic control plans, or you may say called maintenance of traffic plans. We take into consideration pedestrian movements and make sure that pedestrians, there's state guidelines and requirements on what has to happen on pedestrian movements to be able to accommodate pedestrians throughout the construction project.
Because you just said 80% is going to be done during the day, so that's when the bulk of these folks are going to be moving around.
Right. So we do take that into account. Ken, I don't know if you have anything to add. During construction, we maintain the pedestrian movements through the areas. There's sidewalks there, bicycle lanes there today. We make sure to maintain those.
We just make extra accommodations. I'll just wait to read the details on how that's. She will speak those out.
Yeah, I would just like to add, we're even at Copeland Road, which is the north end of this project, we're working with District 4, and they have a mobility project. So we're actually building an extra wide bridge for them to accommodate all the peds and Greenway. So we are definitely addressing the ped movements and pedestrian movements throughout this project.
And like I said, we did, at the end of the project, we did add 7-foot bike lanes. I think that was through coordination with the city, putting those in. We're well aware of that. One of our focuses is that when we do replace an interchange, and I gave these guys the direction and they know this, that if we're going to rebuild an interchange, this day and time, you have to accommodate bicycles.
Whether
it was there or not before. It's something that Florida is keenly interested in, and the right time to do it is when you're going to redo an interchange. So, that's one of our main focuses from the Turnpike is to be able to do that.
Okay.
And we've been taking this project up at Sample Road to do sidewalk connectivity that the district has wanted for a long time. So we're going to actually connect sidewalks that have never been connected up at Sample Road.
Oh, that's true.
North intersection. We're going to actually connect those. We've been working with District 4. We're adding another lane to make their intersection better, and we're connecting sidewalks that have never been connected.
Okay.
So we are addressing that at every interchange and every local road through the project.
Okay, thanks.
Luke?
Yeah, so I'm going to take a different tack. Everybody knows how we all feel about the wall and the widening. Is there any other toll road in the state, or maybe in the country, that actually has express lanes that have additional tolls built into them?
Yes. Not the toll road, no, in the state. There are ones outside of the state. Express lanes are really taken off nationwide. What it does is it manages congestion long term.
Right. No, I understand what the goal is. So my next comment, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I know we're running out of time. And I'm going to leave this to Kristen to investigate for us, because it's my understanding that on the state level there's a lot of concern and a lot of push to eliminate the express lanes on I-95, which is a place that they actually may work. I'm going to be surprised if at some point during this project you are told that you will not have express lanes on the Turnpike. So if that happens, would you then be lessening the land needed for the widening and increasing the space on the Windmore and the Sunshine Drive and the South Creek side?
So a couple of things there is no. We're building the infrastructure for the express lanes. Whether they go in or not, we're going to build the infrastructure because it is the long-term right thing to do. Express lanes is going to be a TSM&O traffic management strategy that will have to be employed because you can't build yourself out of congestion. Unless we put up orders and tell nobody to move to South Florida, and I don't think that's going to happen. People are still moving down here. The state's projected to increase by 6 million in the next 10 to 15 years. Probably the majority of those are going to be down here. So if that continues to happen, we have to address the traffic congestion needs. And as you saw with the hurricane evacuation, the amount of time it took to get people out of South Florida, to me, really shouldn't be acceptable, right? And the only way to do that is to improve our roadway networks. We are looking at express lane connectivity. We're looking to put them on the Sawgrass We're also looking at bringing them all the way to 95 and connecting them down 10th Street so that you actually have a network of express lanes. There was some recent legislation changes that does make, I think, to me, a significant difference in how they operate. They now will be charged by level of service. So if it's a level of service A, which means no congestion, then there will be no upcharge on the express lane. So, but there will still be the restriction on trucks, so you can still get in those. And there's a lot of people that like the express lanes just purely for the fact that there's no trucks, because they can get away from the trucks and they feel safer in the express lanes. At level of service B, there will also be level of service B. There's 0, right? And then at level of service B is a quarter increase, and then level of service C is they go into dynamic for C, D, and E. So there is a staged approach now to when they get employed into the dynamic mode, so that people, and that's what we heard from the legislation that they wanted, was to be able to, at non-peak periods, people could use those and not get charged at that period. So we have adjusted that to be able to accommodate that.
If you're going to talk about traffic flow and that, one of the things that I liked about what I saw out in California, actually, is they have fixed lanes, say, on a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
But in the morning, they have a barrier that goes down here to widen the traffic for rush hour going this way. And in the afternoon, the barrier goes down here. So if you're going to do something for that, I would suggest put that into this project and let's do it right.
Well, the problem with that is you got to look at the traffic distribution, right? And Andrew can speak to this. It has to be very directional traffic, and you don't have that here. You have congestion.
I would argue that point.
Well, Andrew,
going to the airport twice a month.
Speak to the directionality.
Yeah. Well, no, you know what? I'm going to stop there because I know other people need to ask questions. So.
Okay, I'm going to answer or ask one quick question. We've been talking about Windmore and we've been talking about South Creek, but we also have another area, Centura Park, that will need noise walls too. Have you considered that?
Martin and I just looked into that. Martin will speak to it, but
yeah, we did the analysis. There was a private impact to residents there, but the noise wall could not provide benefit to the homes there because of traffic on Copens Road, and then also you have the overpass on Copens Road. So even they looked at putting a barrier on the bridge, which is limited to 8 feet high because of the load of the bridge, and then also approaching it would have been restricted to 14 foot. And so it didn't meet the requirements to provide at least a 5 decibel reduction to 2 residents, and 1 resident needs to have at least 7 decibel reduction from noise barriers.
Can you at least put some vegetation there?
We could look into, we could probably put that.
We could look at that during the landscape development plan, and we will coordinate with you on the landscape plan when we come through and do that.
Okay, because we represent the whole city, so even though.
Absolutely. And just so people know, and there's a perception, and a lot of noise is perception more than it is actual benefit. If you can't see the road, you don't feel like you can hear the road.
I disagree. I hear it from where I live.
Well, the only benefit of people that actually are behind the building wall is only about the first row of houses is the only ones that get benefit. But we understand people like them, and we install them. But we can put vegetation in, and it'll give a visual barrier, but it offers very little noise benefit. But we can do, we can look at doing options for putting landscape in, at least from a visual standpoint, and it'll give them that visual.
And because of the topic raised, I just want to make sure. You mentioned earlier that there was a PD&E study ongoing for the Sawgrass interchange north. We still have not received the plan drawings for that area. Is the westward shift proposed in that area?
Yes.
Or is it the alignment that was shown in the original drawing, which goes under the wild?
We're looking at shifting the main line all the way through Boynton.
So was that in the PD&E? Was that
the PD&E that they're speaking to is of the interchange, and it does include some of the main line. But yes, you will see that shift in the work that's within that PD&E. Yes.
So when will there be an opportunity to comment on that?
I don't have that schedule in mind. We can say, just for the sense of time, not so we don't get off. Well, Aberhorn is the PM on that, and we'd be happy to send you the schedule on that. We'll have similar meetings for that project that we're doing for this project, because that project has a lot of a lot of items involved in that. as well as 10th Street, and we're working closely with District 4. So there's a whole different set of things that have to be dealt with on that project. So, but we'd be happy to do similar things.
Okay, my other question is when I turn into my development and I go down 45th Avenue, a lot of times I get blinded from the car lights from the Turnpike. And the farther back, it's worse, but you do almost to Coconut Creek Parkway. So I would like somehow that's taken care of, whether the walls will help or vegetation or whatever, but it is for light sensitive people, it is a problem.
I mean, the noise walls definitely will help with that. We can work with you on the vegetation types and stuff that we put in, as well as the glare screen areas that we spoke about earlier. If you do see that you think there's a need for a glare screen on a different location, we can look at that and take a look and see what it's awesome.
Okay, Josh, are you still there?
I am.
Okay, your turn up, and then it'll be Kristen.
My only question is, and I think my colleagues hammered most of the points home, but and this is for the Turnpike guys, have you guys ever seen or dealt with an outside agency other than your own study? And obviously I understand when you guys conduct studies and noise studies and things like that, it's your own contract, you're contracting with to conduct said studies. Are you receptive to outside agencies, whether it's a municipality, a private corporation, conducting their own studies? And would you be receptive to something like that in terms of making the scaled decision about walls and some of these things?
So first I want Martin to explain kind of how they do the noise analysis, because it is really independent. It's not, we're not paying.
Well, I get that, but I read your draft with all due respect, and I think you guys are coming to present what you're doing, but I think it's just a very direct question in terms of your experience. Have you dealt with, and I read your whole draft noise study.
Okay. Have we ever?
But I guess my question is, have you had experience with whether it's municipalities, county government, or other prongs of state government presenting you a different study?
And I'll speak to a couple experiences I've had. I've had experience where people have done that, but they don't use the appropriate processes to do it. So I would say if you're going to do that, then you need to follow the processes that we're required to follow. A lot of people want to go get a phone app and they want to walk out to their backyard and say my phone app says that the decibels are 80 or 90 or whatever the phone app tells you it is. Those don't work. There's also different procedures and methods and ways to analyze the noise that we're required to do. So as long as you follow our requirements and you do it the same way we do it, then I don't have a problem with that because it's a federal process. But to do it in a different manner and get a different result and then say that our result is incorrect, that we can't allow somebody to do something like that. But Martin, I don't know if we've actually had somebody.
I think for Winmore, that was, I think, one of the few cases where District 4 did an independent review of our noise study report and found just a couple minor discrepancies, and then those were corrected with the Winmore addendum to the noise study report. Mike's correct. Most of the time, we're not having a simultaneous independent review or separate study. I will state, though, that when we go through our permits for the Army Corps of Engineers, they look at our SEER document and make sure that we're meeting all their requirements, because when they issue a permit, they are following the National Environmental Policy Act procedures. So our SEER document is equivalent to a NEPA document. So, and if you look on our Project Development and Environment Manual, you will see that the state of Florida has recently, I believe December last year, obtained NEPA assignment from FHWA, the Federal Highway Administration, and part of that is that we made sure our PE manual complies with NEPA as much, to all their standards.
Okay, I understand. I think you, and I can assure you, the gentleman there, that whatever study, that a municipality or a county agency did, in addition, I don't think it would be using cell phones with noise decibel readers. But I think you got my question, you answered it, so that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon in this late morning.
Thanks, Josh. Now we have State Representative Kristen Jacobs.
So I'm pleased by the discussion about sound walls, but so I want to keep my questions in two narrow places. Sound walls and then the policy, the bad, in my opinion, public policy of toll on toll. So to the sound walls. if the Turnpike is being expanded to the western edge of the right-of-way that the Turnpike has, and you need 5 feet of clearance for maintenance, which is understandable, on the other side of that wall, how then are you able to put in enough landscaping to be able to buffer? Because the issue to me is not just sound, but it's for those elevated floors that are above the wall. They currently enjoy landscaping. After Wilma, that landscaping went away, and we're seeing all over the state in Irma that landscaping can't be relied on to be that protector. But as hurricanes come and go, in the interim, they do get much higher than the 22 feet and would provide the buffer that both the mayor spoke of and those who are on the upper floor. So given the land that this whole project is being pushed to the west, how do you propose to get landscaping if in fact it's off your right-of-way?
We typically would not put landscaping off our right-of-way, and we typically would not put landscaping in that 5-foot buffer area because, one, it wouldn't get the light that would be needed to grow the plants.
Okay, so then realistically looking at this project, what I need to better understand and want you to bring to my attention, where exactly, where existing landscaping is buffering visually, where is the replacement? Are the areas that there will be nothing other than a sound wall? And where are the areas that will now be replanted?
Okay. I would say anywhere we have a noise wall that's 5 feet off the right-of-way line, we would not be putting...
Okay, that isn't helpful right now.
What
I need to see is what residents want to see, and what I want to see is I want to see where landscaping for visual is going to be protecting residents and where it's not.
And we can bring you a map to show you that. And as we develop the landscape plans, we can work with you to see where we need to...
Okay, and who is your counterpart in Tallahassee?
My counterpart?
Yes, because I'm going to be in Tallahassee for the next 2 months, and I'm on the Transportation Committee.
Okay.
These are issues I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to. So who in Tallahassee? Because I understand you all are local, correct?
No, we're from Orlando with the COE office. So Turnpike has 2 offices. We are, and just so everybody understands, we're actually part of the DOT.
I understand.
Basically 8 districts. Okay.
I do know.
So we're actually, our headquarters is actually in Turkey Lake, and then we have a secondary operation.
So my question was, who's in Tallahassee?
Nobody here is from Tallahassee.
Okay.
So
nobody
does not have
there's nobody
staff in Tallahassee.
that would be able to talk to me about the project while I'm in Tallahassee.
Correct. Nobody. We don't go through. The Turnpike is all self-funded, and we use toll funds, so we don't have to go through Tallahassee for any of our lettings. We follow Tallahassee procedures, but Tallahassee doesn't have oversight on our projects except for very specific items like state Category 2 structures and items like that. We work closely with Tallahassee on the criteria and follow the PPM criteria that the Tallahassee uses, but they don't have any direct involvement in our projects.
Okay.
Just like with the districts, they have very little direct involvement with the district projects.
Okay.
That's ran by the district.
So let's jump to the public policy issue of toll on toll.
Okay.
Without going into my strong feelings against this as good public policy.
Okay.
To the degree to which a policy decision was made to add additional toll lanes on this project, which pushed it further west, which is the comment that was made earlier, to the degree that that policy decision was made, what was the process? When was that? Because that's driving the expansion of what was expected to be 8 lanes to now 10 lanes.
Not completely. The 10 lanes is really based on traffic need, not directly related to the express lanes. So it's more directly related to the traffic needs of the area.
Okay. Let's get to my question, and then we'll get to the secondary part.
The discussions of express lanes and where they go has been a coordination effort with central office. There's been a lot of evolution of that policy. When Secretary Prasad was in office, it was mandated all new capacity be express lanes.
New capacity on Turnpike?
On any interstate facility was considered to be express lanes. That was the policy at that time. That policy has been revised a little bit to say it's in consideration. And the department, we coordinate with central office, and they have an express lane planning department there. So we coordinate with them on where and how we're going to put express lanes in. Typically what we look at is the regional connectivity of the express lanes and where it makes sense based on regional connectivity and traffic volumes and available right away to the department to accommodate our future needs.
Okay, so since the horizon has changed to be in consideration and not absolutely a part of every project, who makes that consideration? Who makes that decision that once it's in consideration, yes, this is going to apply, particularly since this is precedent setting in the state of Florida?
So our secretary, Diane, the executive director, ends up making that call. We present her with the information, and she ends up, approving those decisions.
And I'm sorry, what's her last name?
Diane Scicchetti.
How do you spell that?
By about
I gotta look it up. Sorry.
That's okay.
But she worked, they work closely with central office, and we have actually a new department within Turnpike, the Express Lane Planning Department, that actually works with the new department in central office, which is the Express Lanes Planning Department in central office, that helps with that coordination. But again, it goes back to looking at what we feel like is the right long-term solution for the corridors.
Well, that's what I'm trying to drill down. Who feels it's right? Because there's a whole lot of us that don't.
We have that with every
And again,
decision we make.
because it's precedent setting,
because
it's a precedent setting conversation. My next question was you're seeking her actual spelling. Is in a precedent setting conversation where typically, for example, when you were expanding the hours on the Diamond Lanes years ago, there was no public hearing. In fact, at that time, that then secretary told me, and I'm quoting, that public opinion was not a part of his decision-making process. And to the degree to which this decision was made without input from the public, I think that's important to understand. Where and who was involved? Was an MPO part of this conversation?
Let me get you the spelling. I got it real quick. If you look her up, it's Gutierrez Scicchetti, which is even worse to spell. Gutierrez, and then hyphen SCACCETTI.
Poor thing.
Can we do that again?
Imagine having to write that on the chalkboard 5 times.
You got it? So we did do a lot of public outreach when we started the Express Lanes. We did some public outreach studies down on the Hef when we did that. I don't know if we did this area or not.
Yes, we did.
Okay. So we did public outreach and got public opinion. It was actually very supportive. We've recently done some post-public outreach also that's been very supportive of the Express Lanes and the benefits that people have seen from them.
Okay, so what I'm going to need from you is all of the information related to public outreach in Broward County.
Okay.
When those meetings took place, who attended them, all the specifics of that. And particularly, I need to know whether the MPO was, a presentation was given. Did the MPO take a vote? All of that information. Because I need to know what fed into this decision that took place. This express lane will generate a boatload of cash. Yes, they do. I know you're right. Consistently say they don't, but they in fact do. So when these dollars continue to come in, are there any considerations being given to those dollars staying in the region that's generating?
So Turnpike has a South Florida equity that we have to meet anyways on the collections, and that includes Broward, Palm Beach, and Miami-Dade County. So
it's just the 3 counties?
Yeah. So we already have it's actually statute, correct, that actually requires, and I can't quote exactly what it says. I believe it's 90% of the money collected in the 3 counties stays in the counties. Is that correct? So that's already in effect. So and that's like I said, called the South Florida equity that we did, and that just got renewed this year for 10 more years.
I think for now that's the end of my questions. Okay. What I would like to do, your public hearing actually takes place on my birthday.
Happy birthday, Earl. Mine's 2 days after. So.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a celebration, right? But I do want to understand a lot more about what's going on with the tolls themselves, and because they're driving the expansion of this project closer to the residential area where, from what you're saying, you can't build yourself out of this problem. That's exactly what we're talking about doing when we add laneage and we're not looking at other transit opportunities that would move people instead of cars. We're still in the mentality of cars, and large urban areas around the country have begun to move in another direction. So the idea that we're still in the 1970s trying to tackle an extreme population growth and need by adding more and more lanes when we know we can't. We're pushing as far out as we can, and as far as I can tell, there's no additional dollars. I would be also interested to know, in the areas in which dollars are collected or staying in a county, what percentage of those are going to offset transit costs or to increase
We don't,
transit
because of our
revenue?
bond covenants and our bond holders, we cannot put our bond money onto those type of facilities, so all of our money stays within.
Has to be for cars. Okay.
Within the Turnpike. But what we do is we're able to do improvements that the state does not have to do and spend even more dollars on by offsetting them with toll.
Okay. Last question. Tollings by themselves have very limited access to get in and out. And you see that by all the cones that are missing along the line, people who got frustrated and got in or tried to get out. They also frustrate those who want to get in and use the lane, but because of their destination, they're not afforded that opportunity. So in addition to all the policy questions that I would like to get information about, I also want to understand what you're thinking about where the ingress and egress points are, and what is the full length of this expansion for toll lanes? Where will it begin? Where will it end? They're toll lanes. We can call them.
Yeah, the toll lanes for the express lanes, that's fine. We're going through our full HEF corridor, all the way from Milepost 5 on the south, all the way to Milepost 5 on the Homestead extension, all the way to the Turnpike main line. We're working on a project right now to actually connect those to the Turnpike mainline express lanes. We're working on a project with D6 to actually connect the express lanes that are on 95 to the Turnpike, so that there will be express lanes all the way from 95 through what we call the southern spur, up past the HEF, which will then connect to the ones at the HEF. Which will
What's
then,
the HEF?
I'm sorry, Homestead Extension 869.
Oh, okay.
The Homestead Extension of Florida's Turnpike, sorry. They will then carry all the way through the main line, and we're evaluating right now carrying those all the way through about Lake Worth is where the upper limit is looking at right now. So roughly mile marker 116, and then also all of I-75 in the area up to the Sawgrass, and then the 595. We're also going to be evaluating connecting the express lanes at the 595 75 Sawgrass interchange, so that there's complete connectivity, so that you can go on 75, 95, or the Turnpike Sawgrass and be able to use the express lanes. And then that connectivity will carry all the way over to the main line, down 10th Street, and to the 95 express lanes. So we're looking at a complete network within South Florida, so that benefit will be throughout the southern part, the whole area of South Florida.
Mike, do you want to add the transit benefits to that as well?
And there is significant transit benefits. I think actually Broward County has told us that they added 6 new lines because of the benefits that they saw from express lanes, because they were able to have a more consistent headway on their routes. So they were actually, by getting a consistent trip in the express lanes, able to provide that benefit to their customers and be able to get to areas on time and at a more regular schedule, so they were able to add more routes. And we don't upcharge the transit buses. They pay the toll that they would pay whether they're in the regular lanes or in the express lanes, so they don't get an upcharge on that. But we do provide them that time savings, which is one of the most important things, I think, to transit, is to be able to provide that consistent route. So I think that's another huge benefit that we've seen with transit.
What was your question?
Well, your question, where does it begin and end? Where does it begin and end in this project?
I'm sorry, it's north of Pompano to Wiles Road. And then we stopped it there because we have a lot of work to do at the Sawgrass mainline interchange. There's some significant changes that are going to happen there. So in order to provide connectivity there, we didn't want to have to throw away work, so we stopped just short, and we didn't want to have to tear out the Wiles Road Bridge, knowing that just recently was constructed. So.
And it concerns me that, the public hearing has already occurred for that section.
No, public hearing for that. We're just starting the PD&E in that process. So there will be similar meetings to this within that project also.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Do you need his information, Kristen?
Yeah,
you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you want to do a
About
one-on-one.
Jacobs at myfloridahouse.gov.
Okay. And if you want to do a one-on-one meeting, we would be happy to come down and we can walk through express lanes and why we do them and what we see the benefits. And, I think there is.
Trust me, I know your dance on that.
Well, I think there is, you know, but you got to remember you can't build yourself out of congestion, so we have to do something. And
You're saying that, but that's exactly what you're doing.
But transit's not a
Exactly
solution.
what you're doing.
There's no transit agency that can self-fund itself. So transit is in a sense a fallacy that it fixes anything because
And neither does the highway unless you're charging a toll.
Well, and that's true. So if we
Right.
could fix
So
if we could fix federal
save that
taxes,
argument
we'd
for
do
another
that.
day. Yeah, well, it'd be nice to have a train on 441 too.
Yeah. Okay, Matt is County Commissioner Mark Bogan's aide, and he has one question.
If you want, you sit here. I'm going to get up.
No, because it's better to make that.
For the Minute Secretary, my name is Matthew Gotha. I'm Commissioner Mark Bogan, Chief of Staff. We just had a couple questions. Representative Jacobs touched on one of the questions, but I think it's very important. What prompted the Turnpike Authority to build the express lanes? Specifically, who in the community did you guys survey? Did you survey the residents that were going to be impacted? Did you survey customers?
We did all of the above.
Yeah, we have a full report that we can send you that did the congestion management pricing. And it's on our website, but we can forward it.
Yeah, we would like all of those surveys, and not just the ones that have been sent out in the last 2 months to the people at One More who are directly on. So all of the surveys, everybody that from day one. Something that has all of them.
Do you want that only for South Florida because we just recently did
No, for this project right here that's going inside Broward County.
Right.
Something that has not come up today. In Miami-Dade County alone, in the last 3 years, there's been almost 15,000 accidents in the express lanes with these poles. Has the Turnpike Authority done any studies as far as fatalities and accidents and the traffic congestion that will cause on the whole?
So the district has been working on that. They've made some significant improvements in that. Secretary Wolf actually has some really good information on the improvements that have been made on the safety of the express lanes with the introduction of the new delineators and also the 5-foot spacing that they've done. They saw significant decreases in the amount of accidents and the amount of lane diving that happens in the area. So we can get with him and get you the information that he has on that. But there has been some significant improvements with the change out of the delineators and the 5-foot spacing.
Okay. And in interest of time, because I know that other people want to speak, and I'll have Commissioner Bogan reach out to you privately. To go on the record and for all the residents that are here that are concerned about this project, Commissioner Bogan wanted me to make sure that everybody knows that both as a commissioner, as an attorney, Commissioner Bogan will do everything in his power to make sure that this project does not happen. He will be fighting this every step of the way. If it has to be an injunction or whatever it is, Commissioner Bogan is opposed to this project and will be fighting it. So he wanted to make sure that I do it and go on record to everybody here that is concerned. Thank you for all your time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next, we have Dr. Avis Proctor from Broward College.
I'm actually going to ask our VP for Operations, John Bennett, to speak for us today.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. How are you? We want to get on the record too, just express a little bit of our concerns. And first and foremost, obviously we've seen a couple plans here and there, and we do appreciate the fact that it looks like the water retention that was running along our property has diminished. Could you walk us through real quickly what it is in terms of where you're looking at a permanent acquisition of property versus an extension of an easement on our property so we better understand that? And then walk us into, we saw an area where you actually were looking at using our property for the actual construction staging, and we wanted to address that as well.
Yeah, and for everyone now, we've actually reached out almost, about a year and a half ago now with the college, and we've shared some plans. And initial plans, if we want to hold it over here, in front of the college, we had about a 3 to 4 acre pond that caused some great concern, for the college. So we challenged our engineer team to go back. Actually, I think it's this one here. For the college or something. Yep, right here. Originally, we were looking at a lot of this space here, if you guys remember,
Excuse me again, we can't see that.
Try to see if we have a sheet that says. Oh, here we go. Yeah, right here, everybody. Right here, we were showing a large drainage pond, which, in working with the college last year, was a very big concern. And you guys looked at some redeveloping that area in the frontage. So we've been able to use some of the previous property we've already acquired on the open market, and we've maximized those ponds.
There it is.
Oh, so do I have a pointer? Or? There you go, Andy. So, yeah. So yes, right in this area, and we even researched increasing the volume to here for what we needed, but none of that worked. So actually what we've done is right over here, we acquired those parcels in the open market, and we've used that for all the drainage. So we've minimized the impacts of the college there. The impacts we're really seeing are right off the screen here now. The permanent right-of-way is basically for the southbound on-ramp right there. It's coming through here. We were also able to minimize the impacts to the bus circulation at junior achievement. Originally we had, I think it was a 10-foot drainage easement down through here, 20-foot drainage easement through here. We're actually going to go back to FGT instead, and we're going to try to get their approval to go under their lines with drainage to connect to all other drainage, so that we'll eliminate that need as well. So really, we know, Nina, you're very concerned with the bus circulation. We've been able to minimize that impact and get our needs away from your bus circulation. The only impact, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, we may have is we may need to move your dumpster. Right there, and there's a dumpster outlet that's right in some of our temporary construction easement that we may need to relocate for you, but we did not affect the bus circulation. I know in talking to you, that was a big concern a ways back. So we were able to minimize that impact.
Even during the construction phase?
Ken, I would maybe default more to our construction folks, but I believe, looking through there, I think we can get that work done without affecting that circulation at all. It's really just that dumpster. We won't be looking at properties. There you go. So yeah. Does that help?
So to answer your question, you're not going to be using any of the property for the construction stage?
No, not that we know.
Okay. And how will, just to address it, how will the impacts, obviously, students getting to and fro to the campus, we're concerned about that, because pretty much we have a dedicated left turn lane coming in from that side that extends all the way from the bridge.
Yep.
And how will you address that?
Maintain throughout construction. We'll maintain that traffic.
The new bridge will be built in stages so that you'll never lose that left turn.
Yeah, we're actually realigning that bridge so that we can keep it open at all times and phase it that way. Yep.
And from a standpoint of a wall, because we did talk about in our previous, part of our challenge for the college has been the fact that we're looking to leverage our properties as much as possible. We've been working on business partnerships and everywhere throughout our expanded, district-wide land, and we do have future plans for this property. How will you handle that in terms of a wall or anything along those lines? Because you're looking at it right now in terms of you see recreation, but that's not really the future plan of the property. How will that be addressed?
Well, now the noise wall that's coming up from, I believe it's not Horsford Park now, it's Sunshine Drive.
Yes.
Yeah, that wall will end, so you will not have a noise wall through this area. I know you guys were concerned that, so there's no noise wall blocking off visibility.
Yeah, you need to. Yeah.
The noise wall will end, and Martin can correct me, right in this area here. So you will not have a wall blocking the view. The only impact is, and you've got to understand this, the bridge over the Turnpike is over us, so this ramp coming down will be a lot higher and coming back down, and will tie back into the natural ground right into here. So you will see, that ramp has to be elevated because the road is that much higher than our Turnpike, and it has to get down to it. So that's the impact that you guys are going to see now.
And how are your noise studies addressing that? Just in terms of...
Martin can speak to that.
So, noise study evaluated the college. The college doesn't require noise abatement or analysis. The only part of the college that required the noise analysis was the recreational areas, and that's based on an hourly usage, which you guys didn't have enough usage. It's extremely high. It's rare that a noise wall is built for a recreational area. So it didn't qualify. So once the PDE reevaluation is finalized, that going back to the data public knowledge I talked about earlier, that becomes a data public knowledge. If you build something, say you're building a residence there, and that building permit is issued after the data public knowledge, then it's not included in noise assessment. It's up to you guys if you want to build your own wall or something to try to abate that.
Okay, so the position is obviously as soon as you get your authority, then our property is diminished. Basically, we're going to have to, because it's not there in place. Is that what I'm understanding?
The permits have to be in place by the date of public knowledge. That's the way the process rolls.
We don't retrofit noise walls after projects.
Yeah. Okay.
So there is an economic disadvantage.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, the risk assessments, I thought you were very concerned about a wall blocking off the front of the building. Wasn't that one of the things we talked about with Jonathan back in our initial?
We're concerned about all aspects of it. The wall, both 2 and 4. So, we need to understand that. And obviously the ramp is a concern because we do run classes, running through there. It's going to begin right where our health sciences building is and run down and cross over right by JA. And, I need to point on the record that we do have over 50,000 students who come through JA on an annual basis. And so, we do have a lot of kids there and everything else, and it's something we like to market with our partner. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next, we're going to have Lori Salvarella, and she actually is over JA.
Thank you. I think John answered most of my questions, but the way that you described it, the wall will come on the area that we lease from the college, around that back part, as you mentioned, the dumpster area.
Yeah,
There will be no wall.
So there will be no wall there.
And we need to clarify noise level.
So that's not, that's an MSE wall for our ramp. Our ramp is coming down. Is there another page here? That's the next one up.
Sir, when you talk, if you could go to the podium, because we can't pick you up on the table.
All right, so this ramp right here is the southbound on-ramp that continues through here. That will be much higher because Coconut Creek Parkway is much higher than the Turnpike. So we have to get down from Coconut Creek Parkway down to the Turnpike. So there will be an MSE wall that will be built so that we can get our ramp down. Manufactured.
So instead of being on structure, instead of being on a structure, it'll be on a wall like you see coming into an interchange where it comes up and you got a honeycomb-looking wall. It'll be on wall with fill rather than being on a vertical structure. So you won't be looking at piers and the underneath side of the structure. You'll be looking at an MSE wall, which would be similar to looking at a town wall.
What's the height of an MSE wall?
I think up there it's a 22 feet high when we start getting down there.
That height is
the difference in the elevation of Coconut Creek Parkway and the Turnpike. We have to get down.
Right. So from where we are, ground level,
to the elevation
of the wall would be how high?
Yeah.
Yeah, we provided a protocol for college a year back or so, the Jonathan.
Yeah, I think we've given that.
So what happens is, just off the edge here where the ramp comes down off of Coconut Creek and circles into the Turnpike here, it starts, like Andy was saying, on 22 feet high, but that's how high the road has to be to get over the Turnpike. And by the time it circles around in front of the junior achievement building, it's at 11 feet high.
11 feet. Okay.
And that'll, like Andy said, it passes the building about in this area, here's where it'll touch down, so it'll be at the same ground level as the Turnpike is today. That's where the ramp ends.
So as you come around that area, we know we're going to have to move the dumpsters.
Yes.
But how much will we lose on that road going around behind the building? Because those doors in the back are also used as a main entrance. That's where our 8th graders enter the building every morning. So the bus has to be able to not just park in that area that we have on the side, but also get around to drop off and pick up.
Right, and I've expressed a lot of concern. Dan, tell me if I'm wrong, but we are not affecting that parking. It's literally just that dumpster.
I'm holding the right on the outside edge of the parking lot here. The dumpster remains on here.
So the road itself.
Right, the road itself, this is the thing you don't like coming up through here. That's where we're taking some property. And yes, the dumpster, if we're looking at maybe a little bit over here, I believe the arrangement is that the money will be provided to the college to take care of that.
Okay, so the road itself, where the bus is going.
Right, the bus circulation, the existing road, that's staying, it's literally the dumpster bumps out, just like a bump out, what you guys know, and that gets cut off. But none of that circulation, it won't affect the bus circulation.
Okay.
No parking spots.
So relocating the dumpsters onto that other area, that's the area with the water issue. Okay, you know that floods, and we have pictures we can show you. It's not a little bit of water, it's a lake.
Yeah.
There's a, right here.
Which way? I believe that would be in Wisconsin here.
I'm just trying to figure out where we would move it because we can't move it onto this property because of the water issue. And so I'm not sure where we could move it without.
I think it's here now, and I think that's where Dan has gone it in as something we need to coordinate.
Again, we're not doing the work, so it's where the college wants to place it.
But we need to look at the water issue there. So also, just kind of
to let you know where it's drawn right now, so we need to look at that area, so we may need to adjust that. And then regarding traffic coming in, I know John asked about the students, but the buses, will there be any delays? Because we schedule for the buses to be there at a certain time to start the programming. Will we need to move back the timing of the program to allow for the traffic for the school buses to get in?
During construction, and Ken, maybe you can chime in on, I'm doing this right now on a project where we have schools in an area and we have a lot of MOT. We're working with our TIO and the schools on the best way to do it. We are directing our contractor times. We're actually telling them you can't start till 9:30 now, when in the plan she said they could start at 9 with MOT. The school opens at 9:05. So we can work with you through construction, and our PO will be outreaching every time there's lane closures or moving traffic around.
Yeah,
Our PO will give you a week or two notice, and we've got a great staff that will keep you in the loop on that during construction.
We need to plan out a little bit, so we contact with communication with the schools. So just changing the schedules of buses a week or two out sometimes can be an issue.
Right.
So if we know that during construction overall this is going to be an issue, and we may lose a half hour in the morning or time in the afternoon for them to get in and out, that's huge for us to lose an hour off our program.
And I don't think we want to affect your schedules. I think, Ken, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but we will work with you and our PIO folks and our construction folks to work around your schedules. I mean, we didn't tell the schools down south that they had to change their schedule, and we wouldn't want to do that to you guys either.
Good.
We won't, so.
Good, that's all.
Okay, Sheila, do you have any more questions that you need to ask?
No, I just want to note that I think during the larger discussions about the premium lanes, the individual impacts were not identified as closely, and that westward shift is really what is throwing the discussion into another level. And I think our concern is that we would like to have adequate time to review the documents prior to the public hearing. As you know, there are people that are very passionate about this topic, and to have and we appreciate all your technical expertise, but we've brought on our own engineer to review the documents, and we'd like to have enough time to review those. So our concern is the date of the public hearing and the public comment period being the end of, in our opinion, when we'll really be able to impact the project. So I think that's, from the staff's perspective, that's our concern.
And given these major changes at this time, so close to the public hearing, would it be at all possible to push that public hearing into November?
Our public hearing is definitely, like, we are going to have real problems with our schedule. We have a federal application for a 6F property of parks, and one of those conditions is to have the public hearing completed. And that is on a critical schedule right now because we don't control the federal process to make our letting date. So moving it back several months now, we're going to get into Christmas, and now all of a sudden we'll be maybe looking at January, February. That 5 months is just going to really hurt the schedule.
And I'll go back to this corridor, based on the traffic, needs to be addressed. And, like I said, I moved here in 2005 to address this, and it's sat for 12 years without improvements. I can't imagine there's not people in this area that want to see this improvement done. And see it done. And we understand doing it right, and we understand taking in everybody's account, but that's one of the things with trying to keep the project on schedule. And the public hearing is not the end all for, the day the public hearing closes doesn't mean you can't comment, right? So you'll have that information and can comment up to 2 weeks after that. So if you have, you'll get it before, but you'll have time after also to make comments, and then also the city will also have the ability to review the phase plan.
But you have it on a very fast track.
Yes.
And given the plans that you have set out and the dates you have set out, I don't think our comments will have probably that much influence on you, nor can we relate all the information to our residents and businesses. Going back to 2006, when the studies were all completed, it was for an 8-lane highway with 1 lane on the east, 1 lane on the west. Yep. You're pushing on a 10-lane highway, a major expansion with all 4 lanes on the west side with express lanes that don't allow trucks. So all truck traffic will be on the 3 most westernly lanes. okay, which are going to impact our residents even more. And looking at the records, it looks like it wasn't built, the 8 lanes in 2006, because you didn't have the financing available.
Well, there was also
and
an
now
economic
with
downturn in 2000 that made a big impact to that.
But
so.
you didn't have the financing available. It was supposed to start like in 2008 or 2000, close to
The
that.
reason was because of the economic downturn is why we moved this project.
Are these express lanes for the mere fact that you can get the financing because of the revenue
No, they actually,
incurred
there's
on
very
these
little
express
revenue,
lanes?
and that's the fallacy, I guess. There's very little revenue generated from the express lanes, and with the new policy of the level of service, all that did was take away from it also. So, anytime there's not a level of service D, E, or E, level of service B is a quarter, and then above that it's dynamic. But anything below that, there's no pricing difference at all. There's very little gained, and we don't do this. We don't even count this when we do a reporting, the additional revenue, because it's so small on the express lane side.
But it was 2 additional lanes were fine back in when you did your traffic studies.
Right.
And we haven't. Have you updated all those traffic studies for the
Absolutely.
extra 10 years?
Absolutely.
Because I think the express lanes require 2 lanes in each way because of safety.
It's much better if you do 2 lanes.
Not so much for the need
But-
for additional
well,
2 lanes on each side.
Andrew, I'll let you speak to the traffic. You're the traffic guy.
Regardless of whether it's something or not.
Let me just add, the one thing that I think, and I know, one final question. When you talked about being assigned the NEPA obligation by the federal government, that removes FHWA from the concurrence process. Is that correct?
On federal projects, yes.
On this project?
This project's not a...
No. Any FHWA concurrence?
This is my project, so there's no federal highway. It was a state environmental impact report. So it's not a federal highway involvement.
Right.
And I
We
think
do follow
that's,
their processes.
I think that our overriding concern is that there's one agency looking at this project, one agency doing the technical analysis, and is there any sentiment having, an outside agency review it?
Well, I mean, we don't, I guess, you got to remember these are professional engineers that are designing this project, all right? So they don't do things on willy-nilly. And just like you're a professional engineer, you're not going to sit here and do anything that's going to put your license on the line. Promise you, I don't care who tells you to do it, you're not going to do it. Because it took way too long to get that test passed. And none of the rest of us are going to do that either, right? So there are professional liabilities that we have when we're designing these projects that we go to school for and we're licensed for, and protection of the public is one of the main things that we are responsible for. So, I guess I take a little offense in thinking that engineers are going to go out here and do something that's unsafe or not ethical, because that's not going to happen. On top of that, we're also governed by the state criteria that we have to follow. So, and that's established by the state. So we follow that criteria. So the Turnpike doesn't get a free pass to go do whatever we want. There is oversight. We do get QARs from the central office. They do come out and audit what we do. So there is a lot of oversight that goes on. We're not out just building roads and doing whatever we want. So that definitely does not happen for a lot of different aspects.
It was not meant to be offensive. It was meant to be exploratory, because our issue is understanding when we can interact in the process and cause change. And I think that's what we're trying to understand. And the responses that we're getting are that we are limited in our ability. The ball's all in your court, and we want to understand
I
that you
disagree
can
with
take
that.
into
I mean,
consideration.
that's why we're here today. That's why we've had multiple meetings with you, is to improve that ability for public input. This is not a required meeting. We're here today to get that information from you because we've heard that you want to have input in this project, and that's what we do. There is a process that the state has established and a process that all projects follow in order to be able to move projects through and get them implemented and get them constructed. There has to be decisions made and things have to move forward. So, but we do that. We're trying to reach out now and do additional work. We're going to do a public hearing. We're going on the appropriate timeframes and appropriate notifications that have been established and done on all projects. So, I think we're trying to do that through this process. So, I just want to make sure that it's clear that, we're not in a vacuum here trying to do this project. We're trying to reach out and allow people to have that input for that.
Okay, and the next meeting will be October 17th at Coconut Creek Community Center at 5:30.